We're short on time, Jacob, thanks to me, so take it away.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about hail this week, sticking with our severe weather topics the past few weeks, and no one really likes hail. It damages crops, dents your cars.
White combine.
Yeah, and it can do a lot of damage to your homes as well. But there's an interesting process of how it forms within thunderstorms in the summertime. So with thunderstorms, we have these big updrafts, the rapidly rising air because of convection, and in those updrafts, that carries our water droplets higher up into the storms where it's below freezing. So water droplets freeze above the freezing level when we get air that's below 32 degrees and collide with other liquid drops in those thunderstorm clouds. So the hail just keeps growing, and the more that it stays in that thunderstorm cloud rotating about, the larger it can grow. So it falls to the ground when either the updraft weakens, so the thunderstorm starts to fall apart, or the hail gets so large that its weight cannot be supported by that rising air, by that updraft. So the updraft has to be at a minimum of 20 miles per hour to start to form hail, and it can get as fast as 100 miles per hour or more to get those larger hailstones, keep the ice suspended in those thunderstorm clouds before falling to the ground. So general reference for your hail sizes, once we get above 1-inch diameter hail, that's when we get severe level hail. That's because that's when we can really see some damage being done by the hail, but that's when we can issue those severe thunderstorm warnings for severe thunderstorms that have 1-inch diameter hail or larger. But when you get obviously much larger hail, a lot more damage can be done. Where in the country is hail the most common? In the Great Plains, but it's a little bit farther to our south. So South Dakota, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, eastern Colorado, those are the epicenter states for seeing the most hail. But we see our fair share of hail in North Dakota as well. And the reason why it's just to the east of the Rockies is because we get some of that cold air in the upper levels of the atmosphere just east of the higher elevations to move eastward, and we can get that freezing level to be a little bit lower to the ground, more hail to form. So our hail season in North Dakota is generally between June and August, with a peak around the beginning of July. So here's the climatology map, and you can see on July 1st some of the hail probabilities are higher here in North Dakota. And this season we have had a number of notable severe weather events impacting the major cities in western North Dakota, and we can learn a little bit from each of them. This was on June 20th in Dickinson when a thunderstorm just popped up right over the city, and a lot of very small hail fell, but that created a lot of problems just because of the quantity of the hail. The reason why the hail was fairly small was because the updraft was weak as that thunderstorm was just forming, but again, there was just a lot of it. On the opposite side of things, on July 18th in Williston, we had a lot less hailstones, but much larger hailstones, up to 3 inches in diameter. Baseball-sized hail fell in the city of Williston. And then in Bismarck on July 21st, we had some very interesting hailstones, and we can explain some of these with wet growth versus dry growth. So when Bismarck on July 21st, we had hail between 1 and 2.5 inches in diameter, but some of these hailstones were very interesting because of the clear and cloudy nature of some of them. And that can be explained with wet growth of hailstones versus dry growth. So when you have clear hail that forms, that's because of wet growth. That's in a part of the cloud that's not too far below freezing, so the drops of the water don't freeze instantaneously. The water spreads out over the hail and freezes slowly, so tiny air bubbles in the water can escape. On the opposite side of things, with cloudy hail, that's when we have dry growth. That's in part of the cloud well below freezing, when we have water droplets that freeze instantaneously onto the hailstones, and the air bubbles are frozen into place, making it appear that cloudy or milky appearance. So we also have spiky versus smooth hail. Spiky hail is usually with wet growth, and when you have those clearer hailstones, because multiple smaller hailstones can stick together, forming those spikes, versus with smooth hail, the winds can sculpt the hail into those much smoother surfaces because of the kind of turbulent nature within storms and all of those circulations. So we can also cut up a hailstone in half, and it's like tree rings when you have different areas of wet versus dry growth, depending on the different temperatures and water content within thunderstorms. And we'll end with the largest hailstone ever recorded, 8 inches in diameter, in Vivian, South Dakota in 2010. That will do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, we have not seen something that large in North Dakota, but we have had our fair share of large hail events even just this year, guys.
So true.
It's not good. Never
good. Never is good. Never but it's so true about the clear versus the
cloudy hail.
The cloudy hail, just like when you freeze a tray of ice cubes with the water bubbles, or water
air bubbles.
Air bubbles, I mean, in the water. So very cool. Thanks a lot, Jacob.
Jacob.